And we're rolling. Okay, first things first, thanks for coming on and taking a bit of time out your day. I hope you had a nice Christmas and a new year.
Absolutely nice and chilled.
But that's what we like to hear. Okay, so the first thing that I normally do with all the guests is take them back to a time before you did Strongman, what you was doing, where you was in your life, and how you sort of got into Strongman.
Okay. Before Strongman feels like a lifetime ago, to be honest. I don't know why, I always still think I'm new to it, but I'm really not. I started Strongman in like 2016. So before then, I was pretty miserable. So I used to do trampolining, so I've always been into sports, so that was kind of my thing before Strongman. I was a student, so I was studying psychology, left there, started nursing, all before Strongman. Yeah, but didn't really have much direction, didn't really have much routine, especially after I'd finished trampolining. I kept getting injured with that, so I was a bit lost really, I guess, because I'd always done sport and then I was in a place where I wasn't, and I've kind of refused to go to the gym because I was like, I don't want to get big and bulky. I've already got bad knees and a bad back. So yeah, me before Strongwoman was a bit lost really, I would say.
What age was you? I know you shouldn't ask a woman their age, but in this context, it's what age was you around?
So 2016, I would have been. I'm 29 now, so I would have been like what 21, something like that, early 20s.
All right, okay, okay. So how did you find your way into Strongman then?
By accident, a beautiful accident. I so my partner Matt was into the gym. He was like, "You should go train." I was like, "I don't want to," but I did. I started going to like a commercial gym by us. I would walk up and down, looking at machines, not knowing what anything was, and just hop back on the rower. I did a few body pump classes, um, which was great. Like it got me into routine, but wasn't really my thing. And then Matt started something called International All Round Weightlifting, which is like loads of any odd lift you can think of. Basically, they do it. It's really cool, and it's a global organisation. And I kind of started going along with him to that. Learned how to deadlift, squat, press, and any other wonderful things. Matt started getting into strongman. I showed up at one of his strongman shows. There were a man down on an event. It was a deadlift, a head-to-head event, and they were like, anyone from the crowd want to jump in? And Matt literally pushed me in and went, Chloe will do it. This was a men's comp, by the way, as well. So they changed the weight from 200 to 100 kilos and said, rep it out in a minute. So I borrowed someone's belt and did like 20 reps at 100 kilos. And then Ant Brown, who was running the women's pathway at the time, was like, oh, you might be all right at this. You should come and give it a go. So I went down to, he was at the farm at the time with Dave Meir, so I went down there, and then they were like, do this comp, do this comp. And yeah, I got stuck. Didn't escape.
So did you find, it sounds like you did, that you were kind of sort of already entering quite strong? That's because that's what I found with most of the. Ooh, one sec. I'll edit that. Oh, hang on, me music started playing off my phone now. What a disaster.
Gonna have a little disco in the middle.
Classic music, actually. Okay, let's see. Are
I
you
can
there?
hear him.
Are you there? Yeah.
I'm here.
Bloody hell. Um, that's I can only wear one because the other one falls out. It does not fit. I struggle
That's
with
annoying.
things and like my holes of my ears don't are not a normal size. But that's the one that sticks the most. But sometimes it just runs out.
Need some new headphones.
I'll edit that. So where was I? Oh yeah, most people that I've spoke to so far, all like elite level athletes, have all kind of come into the sport and just already been strong, and people have gone, "You'll do good at that." So do you
Yeah.
find that was sort of similar to
Yeah,
yourself?
I think there was definitely an element of that. I mean, like, I remember the first time I tried a deadlift. To be fair, like, the first time I deadlifted, I think we got up to like 90 kilos, which is like, it's a fair weight for someone doing their very first deadlift. So I was naturally strong, but I think having done sports my whole life, I was already athletic as well. So I was very coachable, good at picking things up. And yeah, like, my strength did, like, escalate pretty quickly. Like, once I learned how to do things, it did come on pretty quick.
What was the first full comp you did?
The first full competition I did was Trojan Strongest down in Bristol. I remember Rob Frampton was refereeing, and I was doing, I think it was like a under 75 and over 75 categories, and I did the under 75, and I came fourth. Yeah.
So if you took the athlete you are now and the, I say the athlete you was back then, where would you say you had your biggest progressions? It could be mentally as well, but physically.
Yeah, so physically, I think like the first 2 years for me were the biggest. I went from like that 90 kg deadlift to, I think at my first England Strongest Woman, I pulled 180, and that would have been within. So I did my first comp in 2016 and my first England 2017. So in the first year, I got to a 180 deadlift, like 60 kg overhead. So that physically is where I was like, whoa, this has gone quickly. But I think it's because of all the like years where I'd done sport in the past that physically that capability, like that potential was already quite high. And then it's been kind of a slow chip away from there. But mentally, I think my biggest change was the Rogue Replica Dinny record when I was up against Donna and Becca, and they couldn't do something that I could do, and I was like, I need to start backing myself a bit more now. And then once I started believing in myself, I started winning more things. So after that, I won. There was an Arnold Pro UK, and it was the first competition where I'd been like, I want to win this. Like, I'm not in it to just compete. Like, I'm going to win it. And it was the same for Europe's Strongest Woman in 23. Natural competitions I've done, it was like I'm no longer competing just to take part. Like, I know that I can win. And yeah, since that, my mindset just rocketed, and I was like, I can do things. Like, I can be the best at something.
Yeah, I think I'm a big believer in mindset. Like, we both at one stage had Josh, haven't we, coaching us. Did you have him for a little bit, or did you just... I remember just coming to he did like a little session and he was there. I didn't know if you'd had him coach you.
Yeah.
It was about 4 years ago.
Josh has never coached me, but I don't know, we just get on. I think got a similar open mindset to training, so I've gone up to his place a few times and swapped ideas and things. So he's been very helpful in my journey, but I've always been coached by Jenny Todd.
All right. Well, what I was going to say was he'd always say to me that you don't believe in yourself, and he does the believing in me for me. And it probably wasn't even till like last year where I started thinking, oh, I can actually hang with the big guys here. I think I'd even won England's under 90, and I still didn't believe in myself until probably earlier this year, really. So I think belief is massive in the sport. I was going to talk to you a little bit later about your business, Holistic Strength Coaching. Is that right?
Yeah, nailed it.
But I've written it down, that's why. But as it's kind of relevant, what advice, because I normally ask what advice would you give to new people coming into sport, but because obviously you'll get that a lot, what advice do you give, and what do you see as a common thing that you have to tell people coming into the sport?
Run your own race, I think, is the biggest one. I think when we look at, because a lot of people get into this and follow people on social media, like social media is a massive part of it, whether we like it or not, it is. But when we go on social media, we follow people that we aspire to be like, or that we think, oh my God, wow, they're amazing. We don't follow people that, well, we rarely follow people that we've never heard of or that we watch and they don't inspire us. People just don't. So when people log on to their Instagram and they're looking at all these people, it's like an echo chamber of professionals, but they then look at those elite athletes like that's everybody and that's normal. But it's like, it's not normal to be at world level. That is the elite of the elite. So I have to often remind people, like, stop, just be aware and stop comparing. And if you are going to compare, like, be really brutally honest with yourself. If you're wanting to get to where that person is, are you doing everything that you can be to be there? Like, are you eating properly? Are you doing everything that's on your training plan? Are you going off program when maybe you shouldn't? Are you doing everything that you can be to recover properly? So that that comparison element is a big one, and kind of just be aware who you're comparing to, and run your own race. Like, instead of looking at how far ahead John is, why don't you look at how far ahead you are from a few months ago or from a year ago? Because I think people get so caught up in looking forward that they forget to actually look how far they've come. And when they do look back, they're like, oh, yeah, I'm doing pretty well here. So running your own race is super important. And if you are going to compare, like I said, compare everything, but also look at it as inspiration rather than allowing that comparison to fuel your narrative that you're not good enough. Use it as inspiration of like, well, if they can do that and they were a beginner once, then like, why can't I do that? So I'll look at people like Nancy and I'm like, if she can come back from a broken leg and do that yoke and do all of these amazing things, like, why can't I get a bit stronger? You know, like, it's learning to detach yourself from that and detach your self-worth from your performance and look at things more objectively, I think would be, it's this thing I talk about a lot with clients.
That's why I like doing these podcasts, because I always ask that same question about taking people back. And I think it's good for people listening and to see that everyone started somewhere. Do you know what I mean? You just kind of see these athletes these days and you just think they were always like this. And he wasn't actually. They were back competing like with everyone else and
Yeah.
like, you know, in garages and stuff. Do you find you have to give different messages to males and females, or is it pretty much the same message all the time?
Interesting. I think it varies more person to person than it does based on their gender, because it's always the same kind of thing. I maybe just word it a bit differently to different people. But that's the joy of coaching, that you do change how you speak with, like, it's learning, it's getting to know people, isn't it, and talking to them in a way that suits them. So for someone it might be a very gentle approach of, well, you're not them, but look how far you have come. Like, let's look back, let's look at your data from a year ago and let's compare it to now. And with someone else it might be, stop being a dickhead, you're running your own race, you're actually doing really well, so let's focus on that. So yeah, it depends on the person, I would say, more than the gender. But one thing that does come up, and I think it's something that maybe men don't talk about as much, like, everyone assumes that women have really low confidence. Like, confidence is something that comes up on every initial call that I have with people. They just don't believe in themselves. I think, yeah, like, self-confidence tends to be worse in men that I talk to on initial calls than women, I would say, on the whole. And I've always found that quite interesting, and it's something that I really kind of want to work with people.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know, maybe it's that comparison and that kind of ego-driven environment with men a little more than women. I think everyone expects women to be low in confidence, and we're all kind of like, oh, I'm not good enough, and it's quite a normal narrative. Whereas when we look at like men in the media, it's like big, strong, powerful, and it's not really spoken about of like, I don't feel good about myself today, when actually it's such a huge thing.
What would you say that your biggest struggle was coming through the years?
You're making me think. I think...
Is it too early for that?
No. Self-belief was definitely on. It's hard to like think back now, because I think I'm a totally different person now to when I started. Like, now I'd say I'm a really confident person, but actually when I think back to when I started, I really wasn't. Like, I remember going to my first competition and was absolutely shitting my pants. I wouldn't talk to anybody because I was just like, this is so scary. So yeah, like, my confidence in just existing was quite low, and I think sometimes I was too hard on myself. And I know the answer to this now. Now I've talked about it, I'm coming around in my own head. The biggest problem that I have had, and probably still have now, is the perceived expectation of other people. So when I did my first year and I won England's qualifiers, came second at England's and third at Brits, belter, wow, amazing. But then the following year I just kept having breakdowns all the time in training, because I was like, I need to podium again. Like, everyone expects me to podium, and if I don't, then I'm letting people down. And that's kind of followed me through of like, when I started winning things in the natural scene, it was like, well, Chloe's just going to win it, that's what she does. And that's a lot of expectation to carry. And then every competition then, like, as I started doing better and better, that weight gets heavier and heavier. And objectively, I know that no one else actually gives a shit. I know people don't care, and that I can win or lose, and by the next week people would have forgotten. But it still weighs pretty heavy. And more recently, it's not been the expectation to win things, but just the expectation to compete. Like, last year, I didn't really want to compete, but I did because I felt like people expected me to, and that I had to do it.
Yeah, I get a bit of that, actually. I have the same feelings, that people just expect you to do well all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I've only been doing it 4 years, but I've won like 2 national titles and that, and I don't deal well when people put predictions out and your name's in it. It's nice. It's like bittersweet, really. It's nice that people are thinking that, but then I can't deal with it, so I end up not going on social media a few weeks before. But then I feel ignorant that I've not sort of responded and said, "Oh, thanks for that. Like, I'm glad you're backing me." But yeah, I've always struggled with nerves as well, and I have my own mechanisms to cope with that. Like, I will shut everything down and make it so you'll probably find it. But when you're doing a comp and someone doesn't really know strongman how we know it, they'll just say you'll smash it, no matter what level, and you need to kind of tell them, well, hang on, this is like Europe's or Worlds, and you're like, you don't get it. This is like the best of the best, so you can't just say I'll smash it. So I'll totally dismay it by saying, oh, there's so many good athletes, I'll just happy to be there. And inside, I'm thinking, I want to do well.
Yeah.
But I'll make out that I'm not bothered about that. I just don't want to come last, because that's how I cope with it. So you touched on it then about nerves. So
yeah.
I take it the more you've competed, the less nerves you get. But how do you deal with them nerves and that weight?
Yeah, so like it's really, really weird. So I do get nervous, but it's not like a negative nervous. I actually love competing for the most part. I really enjoy it. But what you touched on there with other people's expectations and people saying, "Oh, you're gonna smash it," this is something that I have really struggled with, and that a lot of my clients struggle with, because people always are going to say like, you're going to win, you're going to do amazing, like you say, because they don't understand. And that used to weigh really heavy on me. I was like, oh my god, all these people expect me to do this, that and the other. If I don't, how am I going to show my face, blah blah blah. But then I think it was actually 2022, and it was when I was doing the Arnold Pro UK, and I swear, like, I was just having epiphanies after epiphanies. Like, my mindset was just like pew, 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 pew. And I just reworded that sentence of like, people expect me to do well, and changed it to people believe that I can do well. And that just takes the pressure off and changes the perspective altogether, because it's not that they're like, it means anything to them if you win or not. It's just actually these people really believe that you're good at what you do and that you can do it. And that's a bit more encouraging than like, everyone expects me to.
Yeah, I suppose they don't even believe in you any less. If you have a bad comp, you have a bad comp. They don't believe in you any less. It's just what you think about it, isn't it? It's your mind. It can do wonders for you, but it can also kill you off, really, basically.
Yeah.
So on the other end of that, then, of what's your biggest struggle, I'd say, what's your biggest achievement in the sport?
God. I've done so many things that I never thought I would do. I think it's mad to me now, and like this last year has been a bit weird, because before nothing was ever enough, and I was like, oh, I want to do this, I want to, like, on the chase. But actually, like, I'm really proud of a lot of things that I've done. I think my first thing was winning England's Strongest Woman. I never thought I would do that. The next thing was I remember when I made the finals at the Arnold Amateur in Ohio, I screamed. Like, I was backstage and Matt was like, I could hear you from the stands. I was like, I was so excited, because I just didn't think that was feasible for me when I started. Like, just competing at the Arnold was my goal, and now I've came 4th and 2nd in that competition. And that same one where I came 2nd, I did the Dinny record. Like, Europe's was a huge deal. All the natural wins. Like, I don't think I can really choose one thing. Like, my biggest accomplishment, I think, is like the feeling of peace that I have now, and like I've achieved more than I ever thought I possibly could, and that's just an awesome position to be in, because every achievement has had its different meanings to me. So I don't think I can. I don't know if it's a bit of a crap answer, but I don't feel like I can single
never a crap
one out.
Answer. Everyone says that.
Yeah, it's hard to single it out, because they all mean so much in different ways, and I've had to work and overcome different things to get each one of them. But like, when I think back on the things that I have done, it blows my mind. Like, I can't believe that that's me, and I'm really fortunate to be in that position.
I'm going to talk to you a little bit about approaching comps and stuff like that. I find it interesting how Everyone seems to be a little bit different on everything, to be honest. And I pick up tips myself. We'll take OSG that you just did then. And how long do you start out? When do you start your nutrition? Do you have to do a big cut? Do you do a big water cut? And then we'll talk a little bit about how it went as well. So how long do you start out your prep, would you say?
This OSG is the most relaxed prep I've ever had. Like, the other ones are probably more representative, but this one might be interesting because it was different. So I actually only decided a couple of months before I wasn't going to do it, and then I said to Jenny, like, well, I'm a bit bored, we're going to do it. So it was probably about 10 weeks out we started the training for it, but I find like eight weeks is a good amount for me. If I'm doing a prep for any longer, I'm sick of it by the time it comes around. Like, I'm bored of the events. I'm bored of being in that, like, a prep is really intense, like, mindset wise. And to be locked in for that long is just, sorry, my dog is just like moaning. To be locked in for that long is awful. Like, 8 to 10 weeks is good for me. Usually, so in previous years, my nutrition has been, I track all year round, so cuts aren't that hard. I tend to do it all with nutrition. I've only ever cut water once when I was in the under 64, so I've water loaded, but never any more than a kilo. And I did have to get in hot baths once when that was my first OSG 2021, because the water load didn't work quite as we'd hoped. But that's why I went up a weight class. So I've never wanted to do big cuts, just because of health reasons. Like, I really prioritise my health and I feel stronger at a slightly heavier weight. But last year, because I was like, oh, I'm not going to compete now, I hadn't been tracking any of my food. I'd just been living life, loving life, and my weight had been stable, and I was about 75 kilos, and then it got to like 3 weeks out, and I was like, to my nutritionist that I've worked with, I was like, Vicky, please can you help me? But 2 weeks in a deficit, and I was at weight. I didn't have to do any kind of cut. I went over to America at 73 kilos, and yeah, weigh-in was really easy.
So how was your mindset going into that? Do you need to speak to people? Do you need to reaffirm it? Go back a few OSGs if you want. You said this one's a little bit easier, so
it's definitely evolved over the years. I think I used to just kind of take it as it comes. Actually, yeah. So last year I worked with because we're at the start of the year, it confuses me. 3, where I came third. I worked with Alexandra Alexa, who does a lot of mindset work, and that really helped me. It like changed my perspective on how I compete, because I think before then I'd done the training, I'd done the nutrition, done the recovery, all of that stuff, and I knew mindset was important, but I didn't really have any strategies in place to manage it. It was just kind of, here we go. And then if training went to shit, I was like, dear, that didn't go very well. And on comp day, I didn't really know what I was aiming for. I just knew that I needed to try hard. But when I worked with Alex, so I'd set objective goals. That's something that I always get my clients to do as well. Like, what are you wanting to achieve? What is realistic and what will score you good points? And having that in the back of my mind was really helpful. We looked at, okay, so what am I nervous about? So for me, it was failing a deadlift or like dropping the sandbag on the medley. So we went through like what ifs and then. So like, okay, if you drop the sandbag, what are you going to do? And pre-planning for if things go wrong, so that if something does happen on the day, I'm already equipped. I already know what I'm going to do. So we talk about visualization, and a lot of the time we only talk about positive visualization and imagine it going well and blah 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 blah, but like bad scenarios do come up in your head, so, and it's not helpful to ignore them. So addressing that ahead of time was really, really helpful. And then it was looking at, like, how do I want to feel going into each event? Like, imagining myself on the start line. What am I going to say to myself? What is going to really, like, get me amped up or calm me down, dependent on how I need to be for each event. So working with Alex was, like, game changer for that OSG. Like, really, really helped. And then this year, I think because I kind of was a bit like, let's see, I was just super chilled the whole prep. Really relaxed. The competition itself, like I was a bit all over the place. I was really cool, calm and collected for some things. day 2 I had an absolute mare. And this is the thing, like, no matter how long you compete for, sometimes you just get thrown off. Like, I had a panic attack after the 4th event, which I've never had a panic attack when I'm competing. I've had them, but not when I'm competing. And that totally, I was like, what the hell is going on? So, like, even when you're prepared and you know everything, like, curveballs can still be thrown, but it's, I guess, how you manage and come back from that. And I came back for day 3 and just did my thing. But doing that mindset work with Alex was one of the best things I did for competing. I'd, like, recommend any specific mindset work for any competitor, especially if you're wanting to compete at an elite level.
Yeah, I seen she does that, and I was intrigued at what type of like work that she does. So it's quite interesting to learn that a little bit more about that. What type of athlete are you when it comes to ramping yourself up? Are you good at it? Do you struggle? Do you need to do it? And can you bring yourself back down if you do?
I think it depends on the event. A lot of people have said to me that they really enjoy watching me compete because of how I switch, I guess, because I'm quite anyone that knows me knows I'm quite a happy-go-lucky person. I like piss about in the gym, dance around, like don't take myself too seriously. But when I'm competing for something that I want, like if you would have watched me at any of the, like last year's OSG, Europe's, that Arnold UK, any of those things, you'll see like a switch, and it's like, okay, it's on now. And I don't know, like it's not even a conscious thing. I think it's just when I want something so bad, it's like nothing else matters. So I will just like zone everything out. And I think if someone didn't know me, it might come across as me being a bit rude or ignorant, but it's only for that literal like 2 minutes before the event, and it's just like tunnel vision, snap on. Like the event I'm best at it for is yoke. Like I'm just tunnel vision, there's only one thing I'm focusing on and that is it. But then there's other events like log or bag throws where I actually need to be really cool and calm and collected, and if I amp up too much I'm gonna mess up. So it's definitely event dependent, and it's not something that I've consciously done. I think it comes from the heart. It's like when I really want something, my brain just kind of takes over and knows what it needs to do.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen it as well. I think it was the strongman psychologist who done like tests of like, that was pretty interesting, I thought, because I look like I've just like I don't change at all. I might even come across as like I'm not even bothered.
Yeah.
But inside, but my face does not change. It's the same right through, and it's good because after I can just sit and chill, and I'm not don't get too bothered. And if I try and just relax and chat to people, it takes my mind away from nerves, which is a big killer for me.
Yeah.
What was I going to say after that? Oh yeah, the setup for OSG. Did you enjoy it this year better than previous years with the 2 events?
Loved it. It was so much better. So much better. It meant that you can keep that head on. Like because I get quite intense on some events, I'm quite good at bringing myself back down, but then having to go up and down through the day is so hard. So it was really nice, like being able to just stay switched on, and the pace was really good. You knew where you needed to be and when. Yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was a brilliant move from them, actually, from an athlete perspective.
Yeah, I think it'd suit me as well. So, like last year, I say last year, but it's like the year before, 2023's running, isn't it? Like I made a mistake at first of staying in the arena all the way through and then I was too in my own head because I'd watched everyone come through, and you had time to think about it, and then you was looking at other people going, should I do that? Should I do that? Yeah. And then I just completely messed up on the second event. So on day 2, I'd done my event, packed my bag and went back to the hotel, and I watched bits of it on the live stream and just went back when it was, and it was so much better, and I wasn't in my own head and stuff like that. So yeah, I didn't go this year, just because of costs and stuff like that, which is runs me on to the next subject, which everyone's been talking about, is basically athlete experience. And obviously they took steps there to make that better with the layout. But you've done a lot of shows and a Giants live show. I was going to ask you, where do you see the improvements, and like how can we improve lightweight strongman?
Yeah, I think, okay, So, with OSG, there's so many people there, like, it's hard to feel special, I guess. Like, when you're at a Giants live show, you feel really special because there's, like, 12 of you, and it's all geared towards that. So, I think there needs to be less people at OSG, I think. And this is going to sound really harsh, and I don't want it to, but, like, a world championship should be the best of the best. It shouldn't be that you can get there in like your first year unless you are an exceptional athlete. And I was on a panel once, and someone said to me about like the events at Europe's are really inaccessible, and I was like, they should be. Like, an international level competition should be inaccessible for most people. That's how it is in every other sport. Like, you get the best of the best in a handful. So I think we don't need to make it such a big show in terms of athlete numbers. We need to make the qualification process harder, and then I think there will be less people to cater for, and then the events will be able to run a little smoother, and more will be able to put more into the show. So if you look at like some of the invitational shows that are going on of like single weight classes, they're able to put a lot more effort in, and there's more sponsorship coming to it because it's way more specific, and you know that when you watch it you're going to see the best of the best. So I think I love OSG. I think it's brilliant, and it's great that you get to see everybody. Like, the community element is fabulous, but if we're looking at how do we make this more elite, maybe, then that is possibly one route in. My door's just gone, give me 1 sec.
No worries.
Yeah, let's be running. Goodness me.
Zoomies.
I'm out of breath now. No, God. I might start that question again. You know what I'm getting at, but it's really hard to word it.
Yeah. I can't even remember what my question was. Making it better, was it?
Yeah, making it better.
Do you want to start it again? Right, I can't remember what I actually asked. I think I did a long thing.
Athlete experience, that was it.
Athlete experience, that was it, yeah. Before I ask it fully, but because I was just going to talk about a little bit what you just said then, but if I'm asking it again, I'll say it at the end.
If it came to a natural stop, then we'll just carry on.
Well, what I was going to say was the Europe's just gone. But there was only, 14 athletes or so. Well, there was in the 80s anyway. And it felt a little bit more like it was all about you. Do you know what I mean? You felt like everyone... Whereas I've been to OSG when I went for the first time, and no one even knew I was in there. I was asking people in my category, is that the weight for us in the warm-up? And they were asking, what category are you in? And I was competing next to him in the same heat. Like, no, it's just too many people. Whereas at Europe's, it become a bit of a group, a bit of like mates. The 14 of us were in this together type thing, and I really liked that. And going out, and it was a bit more, because you were head to head. It was a bit more Giants livey. It felt like it was all on you. Yeah. Which I don't know what your thoughts on this was, but I thought, you know, when you're watching it at Christmas as well, and you think, I wonder if you could have, you know, say at one of the shows, have a category competing before the main event. So, you know, not everyone's there. People are still piling in, but there's something on, and they're like, oh, what's this on? Do you know what I mean? Almost like a pre-show before the show type thing with just maybe one category, and it, you know, people will be like, oh, what's this? Lightweights. I didn't know there was lightweights. You know, just something to build up this lightweight scene, because everyone's talking about you should do this, you should do that, and I don't know if anyone's got the answers, and I don't know if anyone's even listening to any of our answers. I think there's a few things that you said there that kind of stick out, and I think like that at Europe's having the smaller groups, like you get to know the athletes more, like through the commentary, like because there's not as many people, you do start to understand and you see the characters of athletes, and it's much easier, whereas at OSG there's that many people, like you can't know who anyone is. Like, I don't even know the names of half the podiums because there's that many people there. Like, it's just crazy, and like I should know the winners and the podiums for every class, but because there's that many people and that much information, that many classes on at once, it's quite difficult to follow. And I think in order for the lightweight scene to grow, we need to see more characters. And that's why Strongman does well. Like, if you look at Giants Live, people go and watch
Giants because they're fans of certain athletes. That's why they go, and they're like, oh, I really want to see so and so. And it's a set like when you look, and strongman is an entertainment sport. It's not like tennis or athletics where it's a proper sport. I know that might get a bit of friction, but it's not. It was born out of entertainment, and that's what it is. And the biggest shows are entertainment shows. So as athletes, we need to remember that as well. We need to put ourselves out there and make people want to come and watch us. But then also where you say about like maybe putting on a weight class, and I think that's why the women's is doing so well at like Rogue. So Rogue haven't put on a separate show or like been like, oh, you need to sell out this small venue first. It's, we're going to put you on in front of the men, like you're going to be on at the same time, because people aren't going to watch something if they don't know that it exists. Even when I was doing the Giants meet and greets, people were like, oh, I didn't, like, you're so small, I didn't realise that weight class strongman was a thing. Like, the people don't know that it exists, so in order for it to attract fans, they first just need to be exposed to it, and whether that's, like, for free, like putting on free shows, or whatever it is, like Rogue did, just saying, here you go, watch the women. Then we put on a show, and then they're like, oh, I really like this, and they come back and watch another one. So I don't, like, it could be the same with weight classes if we did, like you say, a little showcase at certain, maybe at Giants Live events of like a lightweight world record, or I think the teams comps were perfect for this. I don't know if they're doing that again, but that put women in front of people, and I think like having a weight class element to that as well, like just to allow people in to see the personalities and see how impressive it can be. We need to be thrust in front of people before people will come, because they won't just come because they don't know that it exists.
Yeah, I think you need to be put in front of people. I don't know if it's even doable, but like I said, a weight class on pre-show, you know, people are still piling in with beers and stuff like that, but you might just go, what's this? Because do you feel like people don't show a character sometimes because, say for Europes and Worlds, there's hardly anyone in the crowd, so it's hard to be like, check me out when you look in the crowd and there's like your bit of family and friends. But if there was loads of people there, I mean, what did you feel at the Giants Live? Was it easier to be like, look at me, give it some, because all these people were there for you?
Perfect example. Giants Live Wrecking Ball. I had the absolute time of my life. I was playing with the audience. I was like, this is so fun. Like, that interaction, like, kept me going. And then I did that event at OSG, and I, like, did a little, like, stuck my tongue out, and then I looked up and I was like, oh, there's no one there. No one's playing with me.
Let's hope Joe Schofield caught it on his camera. It's the best you can hope for.
Yeah. So, yeah, that definitely is a thing. But then I think, like, you doing this podcast, like I've got my YouTube channel, like there's things that we can do as individuals that get it out there as well. So it's all good wanting promoters to do this, that and the other, but if you really want growth, like we've got to get up off our asses and take initiative and do things ourselves, and that's what this kind of platform is great for. It might start off with people who know about the sport, but the fact that it's there and people can find it and you can share it in different forums, people can come in and listen and have these kind of conversations, get a feel for who people are, what they have to offer, and then they might be like, oh, actually, I quite liked what they were about. I might go and see them. So we have a responsibility as athletes as well. As much as it's uncomfortable and as much as it's a ball ache to get on social media, like, if you want things to grow, you have to put yourself out there.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons I started doing this. One was a self reason that I'm not the most confident speaker. Do you know, if we were just chatting without a camera, I could speak to you all day, but as soon as I have to structure the conversation and it's down to me to run this conversation, I struggled.
Yeah.
So it was like a confidence thing that I can look back in 10, 20, 30 years and go, look at all these elite athletes I interviewed and here's my archive on YouTube. It was kind of for me. And the second reason was I was like, this is my chance to help grow the lightweights, like showing these characters all the lightweights. I'm not doing any heavyweights because they get enough.
Yeah.
And I thought this is my chance to bump this sport along that I love. So yeah, do you think there's not do you think, but what responsibility would you say like OSG as Giants Live official strongman have in doing their side of things to because obviously it's going to benefit them, isn't it? The more people they can pack out arenas or whatever, it's going to benefit them. So what do you think they can do?
Big question. I think a lot of the feedback on OSG this year was about like getting smaller arenas and filling them, and I think there's a lot to be said for that. Like Giants Live did that really well the first year we did Brits. We just did it at Doncaster Dome, which is a really small venue, but it was full and the atmosphere was lit, and everyone like boasted about it. They were like, this is amazing. Like you see the footage of it and the videos look amazing because the crowd were just like, the atmosphere was electric. So I think like being a bit more realistic in environments and actually working to sell tickets, and this is something I think last year that Giants didn't put that much out about Britain's Strongest Woman, and there wasn't many people there, and I have noticed this year they've been putting a lot more on socials for it, which is really good to hear. And I think that's it. Like promoters just need to push more to outside, not just to get people to compete, but to get people to come and watch, because ultimately what is going to see this sport improve is money. Like we need money to make it grow. How do we get money? We get bums on seats or viewers, and the athletes are already there. The athletes are already waiting to compete. You don't need to convince your athletes to come and be part of it, but you do need to make it appealing for people to come and watch. People aren't going to come and watch a show that is 10 hours long each day with 1,000 athletes in it. That's an exaggeration, but they don't want to, because it's too long and it's boring, and there's nothing to watch. Whereas if it's like smaller classes, so even if there were more single weight class shows, I don't know if that's something, or if that defeats the point of OSG. But yeah, I think a format where we can see people's personalities and follow along a bit better, because there's not so many people.
Yeah, I think in order to do that, I think you definitely have to bring the number of people down, because there's just too many people, isn't there, to sort of get to know. So yeah, I think grouping them together, a bit like what like Chaos last year, he'd done like the U74s together, stuff like that. If that was possible, I mean, none of us know what's actually possible. It'd be good if like official strongman come out and just release something and said, look, we're hearing what you're saying. Because you don't even know if anyone's listening. We can't do this because of this. We can do that because of that. Do you know what I mean? It'd be good if we had a bit of interaction.
Yeah. And
because everyone wants the same thing at the end of the day.
Yeah, one thing that I did like after OSG last year was that a feedback form was sent out to get athletes' perspectives. So hopefully athletes completed that. I did, because you can't moan if you don't contribute to making it better, right? So, but like you say, I think feedback on like, okay, this is what the feedback said and this is what we're gonna do about it, and like realistic actionable steps as well, not just saying things because you think it's what people want to hear, but like changes, even if they're only tiny changes that you can make that will make it better, would be great.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot more noise this year. I think every year as it goes on now, there's more and more noise is being made, so hopefully at some point. So just moving on to a bit of your commentating. Actually, you've started getting into that, and how did that come about?
I love it. I don't know how it came about. So I think I was going to help out at a competition, and I wasn't really. I think it was England's Strongest Woman last year, and they were like, "Oh, do you mind jumping on the commentary with Keldo for a bit?" And I was like, "Okay." Like, I have no idea what to do, and I just started, and I was like, "Oh my god, I love it!" And I got loads of positive feedback from it, which was really surprising to me, because I just wouldn't stop talking. I was like, I just get my absolute strongman nerd on when I'm commentating. I'm like, this is this event, this is what you need to be looking for, these are the different types of methods that you might use to get this done. And because I know a lot of the athletes, it was really fun to talk about them.
I think that's what people want from a commentator, that you know the athletes and can say these things.
So yeah, it was an accident how I got into it, and then I was like, oh, I like this, and apparently I'm quite good at it. So I then AD asked me to do what did I do? The weight class Brits. Did that, and then after I'd done Britain's Strongest Woman Giants, I messaged Lindsay and I said, look, I know you're not going to want me to compete at this show forever, because I'm not an open strong woman, and I'm going to get left behind. But I've really enjoyed the last 2 years and want to continue being a part of this. How can I do that? I've tried a bit of commentary and really liked it. So that's how I got the job for Europe's. Loved that. And then when I was doing Brits, I was with Lauren, who works with Rogue, and she was like, are you coming up to Rogue next week? I'm going to tell my boss there that you're quite good at this, and we'll see if we can get you on. And I was then on the tailgate show at Rogue, and yeah, it all just snowballed really. But I absolutely loved it and would love to do more of it. And I think it kind of links back to what we were just saying, like, because I'm in the sport and know so many people, it allows me to put across to a new audience, like, who these people are, what they're good at, like, what you should look out for, a bit about their character and their backstory, and getting that across to people is, like, I just loved it, and want to do loads more of it.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's did you see yourself going with that, taking Neil Pickup's and Radzy's job, or...?
Alongside Neil, like, working with Neil was awesome because he's so experienced, and Nicola as well, like, they've done it a lot more than I have, so being able to, like, pick up tips and learn things from them, and I think we all complemented each other quite well in how because we've all got a slightly different style, so that worked really well. But I would love to be able to commentate, like, Giants at World's Strongest Man at Rogue, like, that's what I want to do. And right now, that and coaching gets me more excited than competing. So I think it's a sign that that's something that I need to continue to do.
The two questions that I'll give you a bit of time to think about, I'll ask you them now. So the top 3 athletes, start with an easy one. Top 3 athletes that you've competed with so far.
You say that's an easy one. It's really hard. So there was... When I was an under 64 athlete, when I was a lightweight athlete, it was mint. Like, the British athletes, so like me, Shannon, Lovelace, Kate Connolly, Shannon Smith was Clifford then. That rivalry and Farah Fonseca was ace. Like, it was so cool. And at my first Worlds, the 4 of us were in the top 5. Like, British under 64 strongwoman at that time was crazy. So competing with those ladies was awesome. But then I was also thinking about, like, objectively, like, people I've competed with and how cool it is. So, like, Rhiannon, you can't not put her up there. She's a very decorated athlete. Brits and at Rogue, getting to compete with Donna, who is like the OG strongwoman, again, very, very decorated. How cool that I've had the opportunity to compete alongside her several times. Mint. And the third one, when I went to OSG this year, I was really excited to compete with Erin Murray again, because she's like, I just find her fascinating. Like, she's won Worlds 3 times in 2 different categories, and she's just so, like, her attitude when she's competing, like, I just love watching her compete. I don't know what it is, but I was super excited to compete with her and feel very privileged to have got that opportunity. So yeah, I know I've said like 6 people, but
yeah, it's all right. Nicola Bennett chose the whole Giants live athletes, so it's fine. So on the opposite end of that, then, what annoys you in the sport? Could be anything: personality, attitudes, comp, whatever you like.
Disregard for health from people.
The new one.
Massive water cuts and
Guilty.
I'll just say it really bluntly: the normalisation and, like, I guess, desensitization around performance enhancing drugs, and how some people are so blatant and will, like, post their needles and, like, blast this, blast that, and glamorize it almost, and it actually comes with a lot of risks. Same with the water cuts, like, the amount of weight some people cut is crazy, and, like, this sport isn't at a point where personally I think it's worth it. Like, you get a trophy and $2,000 tops, which you've already paid more than that to get to the comp. So yeah, that it's something that I found really difficult to not be a part of, because I've not done it, but to watch happen. It makes me quite sad that people get so obsessed with it that they are willing to throw away their health and their later years for it.
Yeah, I'm guilty of a heavy water cut, but because I don't want to do that, I've only done it like 3 times, but they've been heavy cuts. So this year I've took on a nutritionist to better prepare myself for
Yeah.
not such a heavy cut, and my health, because like I'm 40 this year and it's not great to be doing it at any age, but the older you get, I think I do want longevity. So yeah, I'd agree with that one, although I am guilty of a heavy cut.
But you'll probably do better as a result. Like when you do a massive, massive cut, like you're depleting yourself so much. Like it's when you think about it objectively, it like makes no sense. Like why would you make yourself feel like utter shit the day before you're about to do like the biggest comp of your life? Like it doesn't make sense, and you're going to be competing in a condition that you're not used to training in. So if actually you train around the weight that you're going to compete, you know exactly how you're going to feel on the day. You can fuel yourself into it and probably have a better performance. I think it's just become it's become like such a big part of the culture, and it's difficult to undo that, I guess. And I always feel like a bit harsh when I say it, but it's the things that put me off the sport. Like it, yeah, just drives me a bit mad.
Yeah, it's understandable. Like I've competed doing it, and I've felt like I'm hungover, and
Yeah.
people say, how do you feel like going into this, or how's this gonna feel, like whatever the first event is? And I'm like, I actually don't know how I'm gonna feel till I pick it up, because I feel hungover, so this might feel really heavy, or I might be fine. So I thought, yeah, it's not, changes need to be made. This is me leveling up this year again of nutrition better. So I'll kind of just talk a little bit about your business, if you want to tell us a little bit about that before we finish up.
Yeah.
You touched on it at the start. So yeah, tell us a bit about, where is it? Holistic strength coaching.
Yeah, so it's my baby. It's what I love doing, and it has all come about with passion. So I used to be a nurse. Obviously took a very holistic view of people when I was nursing. Couldn't really help people as much as I wanted to in that, and loved this thing called Strongman. So I was like, I'll just put the two together, and started my coaching. But it's really evolved into something much bigger than I ever imagined it being. And I think we offer a service that nobody else does. Like it's so unique. So the way that we deliver our programming and our coaching, firstly, like the standard is super high, and that's really important to me, that we go through every single workout that our clients do and tell them what they're doing well, and give those like pointers where things need to improve, which I would say is basic coaching and what everybody should be doing. But we also have built an amazing community of people, and like when we come together at like in-person events, I'm like, this is mad. None of these people knew each other before, and now they're all like best friends, and people are making friendships, and that's super cool. But the most notable change that I've made over the last year is bringing other people in. So we have 2 other coaches now, but also we have a physiotherapist, Desi, and our nutritionist, Adam. So we've got specialist branches. Like I know the basics of nutrition, but I'm not an expert. So Adam delivers that to clients who want nutritional help, and also does like monthly calls that people can dip in and out of on different topics. And I think Desi really is the game changer. Like having a physio in the team is so helpful, because people get injured and they're like, oh, I'm going to see my physio, and then the coach never hears back from the physio, so you don't know actually what's gone wrong. Or the physio will say one thing to the client, and then the client will say something else to you, and it gets a bit lost in translation, and that can make like injury rehab quite difficult. But also like the preventative stuff, like having her there being like, keep an eye on this, look at loading and use this thing. But yeah, so all of our clients have access to her. If they even get so much as a niggle, get to Desi, get it assessed. She'll feed back to me and the other coaches on what we need to be doing as a team to get this person fighting fit. And yeah, it's really unique and really valuable. So, and I just love it. Like I love seeing people do well in strength, but people have literally changed their lives while they've been coaching with us, and it just, you can probably tell by how I'm talking, like it makes me buzzing. Like I love it so much, just seeing people become happier in themselves, do things that they maybe wouldn't have done before, like going for new job interviews, or like stepping out their comfort zones, competing for the first time when they didn't think they were going to do that. Like I've coached people up to worlds as well, and that's amazing. Like the amount of different people I get to work with on different goals, like can never get bored. It's mint. I love it.
I can tell. It sounds like a complete package. But where do you, last kind of two questions is, where do you see yourself in the future going with competing, commentating, and the business?
Yeah, so this year I've kind of said I'm not going to compete because I've always been chasing something, and competing when you're on the chase is fun. It's mint. But I'm not chasing anything anymore, and last year was really hard because I was like, don't know why I'm doing it. So I want to like put my gas on my coaching and the commentary because I love this sport and I want to be a part of it still, and those are two ways in which I can really get my teeth in. So yeah, like I already mentioned, kind of I'd love to get in with Giants, World's Strongest Man, Rogue, to commentate more and more of the OSG stuff as well. I loved that, especially because I like we were on about earlier, not like how we don't see all the weight classes. Like I never watched the under 80s and the under 90s because I'm always competing at the same time, and getting to see that and bring light to it was really fun. So yeah, competing has taken a bit of a back seat. I'm not saying that I'll never compete again. It might be that next year I'm like, oh, I want to do this now. So I'm not like retiring or anything. But yeah, all my eggs are going in my coaching and commentary basket. So if anyone's watching this and has any ideas of places they want me to commentate, hit your girl up.
And where can they find you?
So you can find me in a few different places. On Instagram, it's Chloe Brennan with an X at the end, and Holistic Strength Coaching. And on YouTube, if you put in Chloe Brennan Strongwoman, we're doing more fun stuff on there now as well. So come follow along and join in the silliness.
Excellent. Well, we'll wrap it up there. Thanks for coming on and giving us a bit of your time and letting us know a bit about you and what you're doing. Really appreciate it. So yeah, we'll leave it there.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll just stop that and then we'll just stay on, if you don't mind.